Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce and welcome the man with the most innovative investment ideas for today, Allah Love, for Supreme Lost Found Investors.
Peace, Supreme Lost Found Investors, and welcome to yet again another episode. This week, I think we're just going to do some research together, follow up on the latest news, see what's going on in the stock market world and in the investment world in general. I like to use Yahoo Finance a lot when it comes to news and checking the market prices and things like that. I might have plugged you guys in with Yahoo Finance in one of my earlier episodes. Plug you in again. Yeah, so I use Yahoo Finance. I'm just strolling ahead, see what's going on. I see Trump's potential impeachment and the stock market. What history tells us. And then they got a picture of Bill Clinton there. Oh, man. Let's see here. U.S. stocks. Wall Street drops on Trump's trade comments. Weak consumer data. This one says, retirement expert. People are spending way too much money on stupid stuff. This is by Dara Singh. Dara Singh from Yahoo Money. Let's see here. Long-term saving will require some sacrifice, says retirement expert and author Josh Jelinski. Cut out the Netflix, cut out the Uber, cut out the Lyft, Jelinski said. People are spending way too much money on stupid stuff. They have to save for retirement first and then enjoy. Frequent Uber and Lyft users spend a median of $95 a month, which can add up to more than $1,000 a year, according to a 2016 analysis from Vice. Saving for retirement doesn't mean sacrificing all today's luxuries, however. Jelinski just advises that you have a spending plan. Give yourself a carrot on a stick, Jelinski said in a recent interview with Yahoo Finance. Yes, save 15% of your income, but reward yourself every year with a trip. Take a little honeymoon once a year with your spouse or significant other, but max out your retirement plan. For instance, when Jelinski and his wife were digging themselves out of $60,000 in debt, they avoided restaurants and instead ate grilled chicken and broccoli after putting aside $30,000 in savings each year. Eventually, their goal grew to stashing away $50,000 every year. Man, that's just on food. Jelinski, who also authored the book Retirement Reality Check: How to Spend Your Money and Still Leave an Amazing Legacy. That might be an interesting book to check out. Is a big fan of tax-favored accounts like Roth IRAs, which are funded with after-tax dollars. I like to get my latte. I like to get my coffee. I like to enjoy my money, Jelinski said, but I want to save my income too in tax advantage accounts so that when I'm in retirement, I don't have to worry about taxes. Dara is a writer for Yahoo Finance. Follow her on Twitter at dsing, DSINGHX. A little plug for Dara Singh there. That's interesting, spending a lot on stupid stuff, as Josh Jelinski said. He mentioned Uber, Netflix, Lyft. He even mentioned him and his wife, cut out eating at restaurants. And hey, those are just some things that some people do. The whole point here of Supreme Lost Found Investors, in general, is to think about your future. Whether it's saving, investing, I say they both go hand in hand because in investing, you're saving. You're not spending it on liabilities, things that just cost you money. You're spending it on things that are in turn gonna make you money. So that's a form of saving. I'm just scrolling to see what else might catch my eye, and we can go over together. Look at this. Bitcoin just suffered its worst drop in 20 months. Here's why. Bitcoin. Matter of fact, before we even go into that, what is Bitcoin, right, family? That we should probably start there. Me and breaking down, these terms and these words. All right, what is Bitcoin? I went over to Investopedia. I know I plugged you guys in with that one. I go there anytime I want to know what something is, in regards to investing. What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a digital currency created in January 2009. It follows the ideas set out in a white paper by the mysterious Satoshi Nakamoto, whose true identity has yet to be verified. Bitcoin offers the promise of lower transaction fees than traditional online payment mechanisms and is operated by a decentralized authority, unlike government-issued currencies. There are no physical Bitcoins, only balances kept on a public ledger in the cloud that, along with all Bitcoin transactions, is verified by a massive amount of computing power. Bitcoins are not issued or backed by any banks or governments, nor are individual Bitcoins valuable as a commodity. Despite it not being legal tender, Bitcoin charts high on popularity and has triggered the launch of other virtual currencies collectively referred to as altcoins. I've heard of those. Understanding Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a type of cryptocurrency. Balances are kept using public and private keys, which are long strings of numbers and letters linked through the mathematical encryption algorithm that was used to create them. The public key, comparable to a bank account number, serves as the address which is published to the world and to which others may send bitcoins. The private key, comparable to an ATM PIN, is meant to be a guarded secret and only used to authorize Bitcoin transmissions. How Bitcoin works. Bitcoin is one of the first digital currencies to use peer-to-peer technology to facilitate instant payments. The independent individuals and companies who own the governing computing power and participate in the Bitcoin network, also known as miners, are motivated by rewards, the release of new Bitcoin, and transaction fees paid in Bitcoin. These miners can be thought of as the decentralized authority enforcing the credibility of the Bitcoin network. New Bitcoin is being released to the miners at a fixed but periodically declining rate, such that the total supply of Bitcoins approaches 21 million. One Bitcoin is divisible to 8 decimal places, so that's 100 millionths of one Bitcoin. That's very interesting. And this smallest unit is referred to as a Satoshi. If necessary, and if the participating miners accept the change, Bitcoin could eventually be made divisible to even more decimal places. Just scrolling down. There's a lot more to read. You guys, if you're interested in this, look it up on Investopedia. There's a lot of information on here. All you gotta do is type in Bitcoin or what is Bitcoin in the search. What's a Bitcoin worth? In 2017 alone, the price of Bitcoin rose from a little under $1,000 at the beginning of the year to close to $19,000, ending the year more than 1,400% higher 2017 was a good year to invest in this Bitcoin. It goes on to say, Bitcoin's price is also quite dependent on the size of its mining network, since the larger the network is, the more difficult and thus more costly, excuse me, it is to produce new Bitcoins. As a result, the price of Bitcoin has to increase as its cost of production also rises. The Bitcoin mining network's aggregate power has more than tripled over the past 12 months. Wow, you know what this reminds me of, family? This reminds me of a story I read earlier earlier last week. It's about this Brooklyn Nets player, Spencer Dinwiddie. He's a guard. I know he just re-signed, big contract. Pulling that up right now. I think it's worth sharing with the family. Has Spencer Dinwiddie got a deal for you? The Nets' late bloomer is at the forefront of the NBA's investing class of players, but it isn't stocks or real estate that drive his ambitions. It's Bitcoin. It's a wild ride, but for the league's most adventurous financial speculators, the potential returns are worth the risk. Here we are. In the summer of 2017, we just learned about 2017 and how they said that it went up. What was it, 1,400%? So check this out. In the summer of 2017, Spencer Dinwiddie bought Bitcoin at $3,000, or maybe it was $4,000. Who could keep it straight after a year of wild volatility and frenetic trades? Either way, his timing was impeccable. We know why. So good that it bothers him in retrospect. If I would have gone all in, boy, I'd be loaded right now, he says one day over lunch. I'd be rolling in it. As the NBA season began in fall 2017, Dinwiddie obsessively kept tabs on his investment. Before games in the locker room, when most players were busy entering the zone, he would open Coinbase, an app that supports crypto transactions, and watch the ticker do its thing, fluctuate erratically. That's a plug right there. Coinbase. It's an app that supports crypto transactions for, our family that's invested in Bitcoin, altcoins, or that are thinking of investing in it. Keep reading this story. It's interesting. I honestly got tired of hearing him talk about it, says Trevor Booker, who played with Dinwiddie in Brooklyn the past 2 seasons. He would let me know how it was performing every day. I know what that's like. When you see your stocks go up, you just want to tell everybody, like, hey, my stock is up right now. Anyway, let me continue with the story. For Dinwiddie, the movement was exciting, dizzying, tense. As prices climbed, he would relax a little. It's doing what they said it would do, he thought. Trust the process, as Joel Embiid would say. Then in the dead of winter, cryptocurrency caught fire. Dinwiddie's intriguing investment quickly became an epic winner. On a given day, Bitcoin might spike by thousands of dollars and then do so again a week later. The action was unprecedented. Following along demanded a certain dedication. Unfortunately, Dinwiddie was in the middle of an NBA season. Games weren't much of an obstacle. They usually tipped off at night during the market's mellow hours, but afternoon film sessions and run-throughs perhaps got in the way of a good investment opportunity. If I knew I was going to make a trade and it would intersect with practice, I would set a super strict sell stop, he says, referring to a mechanism that will automatically sell an asset if it reaches a certain value on the market. I'm gonna highlight that right there. He said he would set a super strict sell stop. Sell stop. referring to a mechanism that will automatically sell an asset if it reaches a certain value on the market. Let me continue. He was serious about those automated moves. The crypto market may have gone wild, but Dinwiddie had to be meticulous. For him, this was not a series of digits moving randomly, inconsequentially across a screen. This was money. Dinwiddie was on a near minimum contract, and it wasn't clear if the next one would pay any better or if it would arrive at all. And of course, Bitcoin was still somewhat of an enigma, particularly in NBA circles. Initially, even Dinwiddie viewed it as basically a regular booming stock, not a decentralized, largely unregulated currency unaffiliated with any country. If y'all didn't catch that, that was the breakdown between Bitcoin and the stock market, and I'll read it again. And of course, Bitcoin was still somewhat of an enigma, particularly in NBA circles. Initially, even Dinwiddie viewed it as basically a regular booming stock, not a decentralized, largely unregulated currency, unaffiliated with any country. It is based online and exists apart from the United States government. Many players were too risk averse to get in the crypto fray. Every day, Dinwiddie tried to convince Booker, who runs his own venture capital firm, to invest in crypto. But Booker says, I thought it was too volatile and I didn't know enough at the time. You see the difference between those two players? Dinwiddie, like I said earlier, he saw it as a regular booming stock and not what it was, which is a decentralized, largely unregulated currency, unaffiliated with any country. His teammate Booker, on the other hand, thought it was too volatile and didn't know enough at the time. I just thought that was interesting, the difference in the two players' frame of mind when it came to investing in this Bitcoin. But I'll continue. Every day, Dinwiddie tried to convince Booker. Right, I already read that. Dinwiddie, on the other hand, was curious and courageous enough to invest. He jumped into the world of Bitcoin just before it reached critical mass, as a few NBA players did, but connected with it more deeply than most investors, inside and out of the NBA. He is a forward thinker with a busy mind. Oh man, I got a lot of ideas, he says, but I can't give it all to you because I haven't even started them yet. In Bitcoin, Dinwiddie recognized a ready-made chance to enter on the ground floor of something special, to chance it, to get rich quick even. In that way, Dinwiddie was unique in the league. Increasingly, NBA players are leading businessmen, and many among them are stars. LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Andre Iguodala. In most cases, their investments are secondary, maybe even irrelevant. Through basketball, those players have banked tens of millions in career earnings, and they can activate their brands to effectively print more money at will. Dinwiddie wasn't like them and still isn't. And he's not like the standard NBA crypto investor either. Most of those guys only caught on when Bitcoin hit the mainstream, using what Dinwiddie calls Vegas deals, putting down a few $1,000 and hoping for the best. When Dinwiddie invested in summer 2017, he did so in earnest. He was just a 2014 second-round pick with a once-torn ACL, tossed aside by two franchises and fighting for minutes with his third. He was a fringe player with an uncertain future, not entirely unlike Bitcoin itself. There was plenty to lose. Then, as if by fate, Dinwiddie and Bitcoin ascended together. Dinwiddie, 25, was born in Los Angeles and grew up in an intellectual family. His mother, Stephanie, spent nearly 2 decades as a professor at the University of Southern California before opening her own preschool. Dinwiddie's father, Malcolm, is a real estate agent who pushed Dinwiddie to plan outside basketball. His younger brother Taylor studies computer engineering and has always been an academic standout. He probably got a lot of his business acumen from his parents, said Tad Boyle, Dinwiddie's college coach at the University of Colorado. They're very intelligent and they raised Spencer and Taylor to follow suit. For a time, Spencer was a straight A kid just like Taylor, but much in the way gold tends to peak as the stock market dips. As I rose in basketball, inversely proportionally, I declined in school. In Boulder, Dinwiddie majored in integrated physiology for 2 years before he switched to communications to lighten the workload. He could have been an academic All-American if he put his mind to it, says Boyle. He's a smart guy. I told Spencer when he left here, if you have the career you want to have, you have the capacity to be an NBA general manager. He's smart enough. He understands the market, and there's so many guys that don't. Bitcoin first appeared on Dinwiddie's radar in 2014, recommended by a friend who works in finance. At the time, Dinwiddie had little disposable income. In January of that year, as a college junior, he torn his ACL. In June, he slid to the second round of the NBA draft where the Pistons selected him. He signed a contract with 2 guaranteed years for less than $1 million each. As a rookie, he appeared in fewer than half of Detroit's games and spent time in the D-League. Maybe he'd have a future in the NBA, or maybe he'd flame out as many second-round picks before him had done. Meanwhile, he was wary of the Bitcoin suggestion. He'd heard the horror stories of players who'd gone broke, and those guys had earned way more money in sports than Dinwiddie thought he might. Their tales always seemed to begin with some friend and some dubious investment. This sounded a lot like that. Cryptocurrency in 2014, Bitcoin was weird, laughable, a black hole, a good way for a 21-year-old rookie to lose it all. So back when Bitcoin cost somewhere between 1/10 and 1/20th of what it does today, Dinwiddie told his friend, man, hell no. Like, no effing way. There's no chance. Instead, encouraged by his father, Dinwiddie entered the real estate market. During his first season in Detroit, Dinwiddie purchased a spec home where he planned to live throughout what he imagined would be a lengthy Pistons tenure. To afford the property, he took out a mortgage against future earnings. The real estate market was considered a safer bet than crypto, but it too carried some risk. I wanted him to get more of a solid foundation and money in the bank, so to speak, before he started getting debt on a house or taking risky investments, says Boyle, who formerly worked as an investment advisor at what is now RBC Wealth Management. Let me take a break there. I just want to point out Spencer Dinwiddie was surrounded by, of course, his parents. His mom was a professor. His dad was an investor in the real estate. His coach, it just said, was an investment advisor. So you see that old adage, you are the company you keep. You see it manifesting through Spencer Dinwiddie's story. It's very important. Like last week when we had Tyler, young boy, 18 years old, young investor in the stock market. Go back to last week's episode and check out that phone interview between us two. But let's get back to this story. It's very interesting. Not that I didn't believe in him, he continues, but you have to get lucky, especially when you're a guy like Spencer, off an ACL, drafted in the second round. But Spencer is his own man. After 2 years in Detroit, Dinwiddie was traded to Chicago, where he bought another home. Within the next 4 months, he was waived twice by the Bulls. When the Nets scooped him up in December 2016, Dinwiddie became a remote landlord twice over. He still rents out each property and others. He got that. He's a supreme loss found investor. Meanwhile, on December 8th, when Dinwiddie signed with the Nets, one Bitcoin cost about $775. On January 1st, 2017, it cost nearly $950. By the first week of February, it cleared $1,000 per share. That month was so good to Dinwiddie, too, as he scored 17 points in one game and 19 the next. By April, Dinwiddie had secured a future role with the Nets. Bitcoin was rocketing towards $1,200 and beyond. At season's end, Dinwiddie set up a Coinbase app. He was done letting Bitcoin grow without him. He transferred some money from the bank and bought in. Spencer's got the courage of his convictions, Boyle says. I didn't get into Bitcoin. A lot of people looked at it and watched, but Spencer's not afraid to take a risk. And that's something that I really respect. I'm going to take another pause there. If you go back, I would say about 2 episodes back, I had a phone interview with a law build. And in that interview, he highlights that in order to invest in the market or like something like this, like a Bitcoin, you got to be able to take risk. I suggest you go back to that episode if you didn't hear that powerful interview. But I'll continue. You don't catch fish from the dock unless you put the line in the water, and he'll put the line in the water. As the 2017-18 NBA season opened, Bitcoin cleared $5,000, banking immediate returns for Dinwiddie. By December, the price had doubled. Soon it would triple up to $15,000. Dinwiddie, feeling lucky, began to research some lesser-known coins. He noticed that a cryptocurrency called Tron had secured backing from wealthy investors. If billionaires invest in something and push something, even if it doesn't have long-term success, it'll have its day, Dinwiddie says. That might be a key. I'm going to drop it again. If billionaires invest in something and push something, even if it doesn't have long-term success, it'll have its day. That's a jewel. I'll continue. He bought into Tron in early December when Bitcoin's prices were spiking. Almost immediately, Tron spiked too. It was quite a time to be Spencer Dinwiddie. As the crypto market took off, his basketball career went with it. November 2017 was his best month ever, as he logged a career high in minutes per game and scored a career high 25 in a win versus Utah. December was even better. He played more minutes per game and set another career high in scoring, all while averaging 7.1 assists for the month. Career best. During that stretch, his on-court persona finally mirrored his everyday demeanor. In conversation, Dinwiddie is confident and charismatic. During that stretch, his on-court persona finally mirrored his everyday demeanor. In conversation, Dinwiddie is confident and charismatic. On occasion, like when discussing a profitable trade, he will lean back proudly, flash a wide grin, and, like any native Californian, hang 10. He believes he'd make a good guest on Shark Tank, and he's probably right. Dinwiddie welcomes a spotlight and its associated pressure. I'm really more of an all-gas, no-brakes type thinker, he says, and that mentality has increasingly permeated his basketball career, which he calls his main bet. Recently on Nets Media Day, he said, I don't believe that anybody can guard me. The comment was exaggerated and amusing, but it carried some truth. In big spots, Dinwiddie has a knack for pulling off the improbable. In January in Detroit, he buried his old team with a wonky buzzer-beating combination move. A driving pump fake followed by a drop step followed by a hideous mid-air up and under layup looking thing. It eluded the flailing arm of Andre Drummond and put Brooklyn ahead with but .9 seconds on the clock. Despite just despite starting just 58 games for the Nets last year, Dinwiddie matched James Harden with 103 clutch time points. By season's end, the former D-leaguer finished third in most improved player voting behind All-Star Victor Oladipo and star defender Clint Capella. Yes, Dinwiddie recently has something to say about it. Next summer, he'll reach unrestricted free agency. To an outsider, it's easy to see how his lack of bona fides makes it difficult to pinpoint his value. He spent 3 years as a minimum salary type player and one as something like a mid-level exception type player. That's roughly $8.5 million annually or better. Many athletes might deny or downplay the uncertainty of his situation, but Dinwiddie is happy to size it up with unusual clarity and objectivity. It's an interesting case study, he says. He and the Nets can begin negotiating an extension starting on December 8th, nearly 30 games into the season. It's a big bet because you could say, hey, his first 30 games, he killed it. And I could be like, well, because I killed it, I ain't signing the extension. Or the first 30 games could be bad, and you could be like, I'm not going to sign him now. Indeed, his parallel with Bitcoin continues after their respective rises. Questions persist. Even Dinwiddie hedges when it comes to crypto. In December, he sold some of his coins, enough to cover his principal investment. He exited Tron at the perfect time, just as it multiplied sixfold from his purchase price. Sixfold. As for Bitcoin, Dinwiddie mostly sold at around $15,000 per coin. It briefly continued to rise afterward, peaking at $19,783 in late December. But then, just as suddenly as it had ascended, the price began to tumble, moving from 5 figures to 4. In recent months, it has landed around 6,500. Dinwiddie reads everything he can on the crypto market and crypto tech. That's another jewel. Read everything. Read everything you can on the businesses that, you decide to invest in, or even if you're going to do this crypto thing, real estate, any investment, Supreme Lost Found investors, any investment, you got to read. You got to do the research. The only alternative would be to hire a broker, someone who's going to do all that for you. And even then, they're going to be pushing the buttons with your money. So, I mean, if that's your kind of thing, go ahead and do it. I'm going to continue to read. His early success felt like easy money, so he began to wonder how to make more or whether to leave ahead. When you realize you don't have the answers, he says, you decide you need to learn. Dinwiddie likes to bring his crypto content with him on road trips. That's how I choose to feed my mind the last year and a half. Other NBA players have been doing the same, and maybe that's not surprising, as most of them fall into Bitcoin's most active demographic. 21% of people aged 18 to 34 have made a Bitcoin trade. That's 3 times the number among those 35 to 54, and 20 times the number among those 55 plus. Wilson Chandler of the 76ers has even taken an online crypto course. Once I learned about Bitcoin, I started to learn about the alternative coins, and I started doing the research on the companies and the tech behind it, he says. I day traded a few of the coins, got my feet wet. I was using Coinbase like everyone, then using different, bigger platforms so I could do more trading. During the season, Chandler would check prices once or twice per week. Still, there is less pressure on somebody like Chandler, a 10-year vet whose salary this year is $12.8 million. Then there was on Dinwiddie, or on, say, Pat Connaughton of the Bucks. Connaughton, like Dinwiddie, is a former second-round pick. He's also an avid investor, mostly real estate, who caught on to Bitcoin last year. I only dabble in the digital currency, he says. I'm not an expert or know if it's going to boom or bust, but being a business guy, I try to diversify a little bit. Connaughton invested some money during the crypto rise. For a while, Connaughton would monitor prices consistently too, but lately, crypto has taken a backseat to some of his other investments. For Dinwiddie, though, the battle rages on. He remains firm in his convictions. He believes cryptocurrency is here to stay, and with his expertise, he can even make it all sound philosophical. Blockchain, in essence, is transparency, he says. Blockchain is sort of a ledger that keeps track of crypto trades and accounts. It is decentralized, a network of countless computers that are checking each other to confirm transactions, making the system virtually impossible to hack or fudge. So, if as humans we're searching for transparency, we're going to get there eventually. Now, what does that mean for the price? I don't know. Is it a $10,000 Bitcoin, 5,000, 500,000? Nobody knows. I think everyone's guesstimating. But the tech base in general, if we as a people, all 7.5 or 8 billion of us, say we want truth and transparency, it's the next step. To get there, it will take widespread adoption of cryptocurrencies. Until it is accepted as a regular, usable currency, Bitcoin's price is only relevant to market traders. What does it matter if a bill is worth $1 or $100 if you can't buy anything with it? Many across the NBA, in addition to Dinwiddie, understand this and are working to legitimize the currency. In 2014, the Sacramento Kings became the first NBA team to accept Bitcoin for ticket payment. And earlier this year, they installed crypto mining machines inside their arena. The Dallas Mavericks also tried accepting Bitcoin for tickets 4 years ago, but team owner Mark Cuban says they received no inquiries. This season, Dallas will try again. If crypto is going to have a chance of being a currency, then someone has to start accepting it for payment, Cuban says. We wanted to try it, see if we can get any traction, and learn from the experience. Cuban envisions a day when the NBA more wholly embraces Bitcoin for jersey sales, league pass, and more. I need to talk to Mark Cuban, Dinwiddie says upon hearing the news. Is that tampering? I don't know if I can talk to him, quite honestly. Would Dinwiddie go to similar lengths to legitimize the currency? Would he accept a Bitcoin salary? No, not yet. Dinwiddie notes that because crypto isn't widely embraced, he'd have to exchange his Bitcoin for US dollars to buy anything. Those sales would trigger capital gains taxes. Not good. And if the Bitcoin market were down, meaning there were no gains for the market to tax, well, that'd be a problem too, says Cuban when asked about Bitcoin salaries. No. So that's out. And yet Dinwiddie remains committed to the movement. I look at this whole time as like a big ass reinvestment period, he says. He still has a chunk of money invested in crypto, and recently he methodically bought in some more, preparing for another boom. Maybe he'll be able to speak it into existence. That might help with his latest endeavor. This season, Dinwiddie is debuting his signature shoe, which he developed with the company called Project Dream, eschewing the help of a major brand. He's the only NBA player to embark on such a mission. As he notes, what a lot of people don't know about Big Baller Brand is they use Brand Black, which is a subsidiary of Skechers. But Dinwiddie isn't signing any old flat rate sneaker deal. Why would I take $25,000 from Nike, which is $14,000 after taxes? He says. If you're smart with what you do contract-wise, why wouldn't you try to make more? Instead, his deal is high upside with some risk, just the way he likes it. Dinwiddie says he'll receive upward of 50% of his sneaker profits, provided he can successfully leverage his platform to net any profit from his overall cut, $25, 25.08%, representing his college and professional jersey numbers. Will go to Dinwiddie Family Foundation, which helps send kids to college. Dinwiddie has been wearing the sneaker all preseason and will continue to rock it. Later this season, it will hit retail in Nets shops and on his personal site. Dinwiddie can hardly wait. He sketched out the shoe, obsessed over the supportive foam, weighed quality and sustainability against profit margins and price points, and negotiated an endorsement deal that suits him. In short, he's overseeing the entire project, even the accepted payment methods. So yes, when Dinwiddie's shoe hits the market, fans will be allowed to buy it with Bitcoin. Okay, that's the end of that article. I just want to shout out, you know, the author, the writer. That was by Leo Sepkowitz. And this is an older article. It's from October 12th, 2018. Now, I know that just recently, Spencer Dinwiddie did re-sign with the Nets, and he's turning his contract into a Bitcoin gamble. This was from New York Post. This was a more recent story. September 13, 2019. Spencer Dinwiddie, once again, this is by Brian Lewis. Spencer Dinwiddie has already shown himself to be a pretty good point guard and recruiter. Now he's adding entrepreneur and digital trailblazer to his resume. The Nets point guard is looking to convert at least part of his 3-year, $34 million Nets contract, which kicks in this season, into a digital investment deal that will lead to an upfront payment for himself. In short, he's going to sell bonds in himself to get more money at his fingertips now. The move, first reported by The Athletic and confirmed by the Post, is the first of its kind in the NBA and involves the securitization of his contract. Dinwiddie is effectively trading away a portion of his future income through a digital coin-backed bond in exchange for an upfront cash payment. It's a strategy that will allow him... Hang on one second, family. Just had a pop up there. In short, hang on. Okay, Dinwiddie is effectively trading away a portion of his future income through a digital coin-backed bond in exchange for an upfront cash payment. It's a strategy that will allow him to invest more money earlier, in theory, ultimately create more wealth. Late Thursday, hours after Dinwiddie retweeted a CNBC tweet of Draymond Green praising LeBron James for opening the doors for athletes to take control of their own futures. He tweeted $BTC, the 3 letters symbolizing Bitcoin. Of course, Bitcoin isn't specifically covered in the collective bargaining agreement, so there could be hurdles to work through, but the plan could also change how players negotiate future deals if successful. The deal calls for Brooklyn's 26-year-old guard, who has spoken before about investing in cryptocurrencies, to pay his investors principal and interest, with his contract covering what he owes. The dangers lie in the unlikely event that the deal is voided for conduct. There are also questions about how this would impact the 3rd year of Dinwiddie's contract, which is a player option. Still, the move is very on brand for Dinwiddie. He introduces himself on his Instagram page as just a tech guy with the jumper and hawks his own sneaker line. Dinwiddie averaged 16.8 points and 4.6 assists to help the Nets make the playoffs last season. He also played a key role in recruiting Kyrie Irving to Brooklyn. Irving then helped the then helped land NBA superstar Kevin Durant. As the Post reported on September 4th, Dinwiddie is buying a $3 million penthouse on the highest floor in Brooklyn. The Brooklyn Point Tower has the highest infinity pool in the entire Western Hemisphere and a wine library. That's the end of that one. So, Spencer Dinwiddie, I dedicated this week's episode to you, my man, my brother. Very innovative. He's making moves. Spencer Dinwiddie, if you were to watch this episode, you are a supreme lost found investor. And with that, family, I hope you guys did the knowledge to the wisdom, got your own understanding, and let's cast that line in the water. Let's make these profits. With that, I say peace.